Geo Nerds. Here we are again doing another lost creek right in the middle of Brisbane. The area is called Frogs Hollow. The creek had a name, but Little Creek or the Little Creek, but the whole area is just called Frogs Hollow. You'll see where it is. Watch the video. Amazing. You've been walking through this all your life and you didn't know. Anyway, had a great time. One of our first nighttime walk-arounds, which I quite enjoyed. Stretches the camera work a little bit in some places, but it was a great deal of fun. It was nice and cool. So anyway, I hope you enjoy this. Frogs Hollow coming right up, and you know what I'm going to say.
Let's rock.
Hey Geo Nerds, just firstly, I'd like to thank all the new subscribers to the channel. Subscribing really helps in the wild and weird world of YouTube. And if you want to get a ding every time I push out a new video, and I do quite a few of them, smash that little bell. So, let's get on with the video. Also, as I learn more about the colonial history of Brisbane, I feel I really need to say this. I begin today by acknowledging the Turrbal people, traditional custodians of the land in which we live today, and I pay my respects to their elders, past and present, and acknowledge that they got royally dicked by my ancestors. I take no pride in the knowledge of what was done to these people and recognise their pain. My ancestors came from Northern Ireland, a land not too unfamiliar with land theft, murder and genocide. It just seems a shame we seem to want to do it all again here. Well, I suppose we should start at the very beginning.
A very good place to start.
In the convict days, down at the bottom end of town near Alice Streets, there was a mangrove swamp known as Frogs Hollow. And there was a small creek that ran up there, and the convicts had to walk across it on a little wood bridge, just a plank of wood, and it was full of frogs. They just called it Frogs Hollow. And this is the area that it took up in Brisbane, and I've got a few different representations of it here. But yeah, it's a little creek, sometimes referred to as the Little Creek or Little Creek. No longer visible in any way, completely and utterly constrained. And you can see that there's early Brisbane. If you look Garden Point down there, this is where Frogs Hollow was. And I'll mark it on a couple of other maps here just so you've got an idea. And it was always there, always drawn, but as the end of the 19th century and the early 20th century took over, it was well and truly gone. And this was, of course, the land of the Turrbal people. Even though this was a swamp, it was a good place to gather food, and it was marked on their early maps but when we asked them what they did. But they didn't live down here. They were living up at Roma Street and on the higher ground, of course. But this was one of the first places that settlers took over, so Aboriginal people were excluded from this very early, 1820s, 1830s. So, yeah, it didn't end well as usual. Well, the geology of this is fairly interesting. We've got a synthetic LiDAR here that shows you the low-lying area that is Frogs Hollow. Unfortunately, it's fairly modern, as you can see, so most of the creek features that would have been Little Creek are just gone. We'll have a look at the geology of the area. You can see the light yellow is Quaternary gravels, the purple is our good old friend the Narranleaf Fernvale Shale, and the green on the other side there is the Kangaroo Point Tuff, and you can quite plainly see Frogs Hollow in the gravels. And if you don't need an illustration, here's a flood photo of it in I think about 1974, and you can see quite plainly where the hollow, the low section is here with the flooding. And nothing's changed, it'll still flood there. Well, we call this chapter today, but this one's from 1898. You can see Frog's Hollow. This one's from a little later in the 1930s. Frog's Hollow, no water in this one. I thought I'd give you a dry one for a minute. But we'll go back to the flooding. This is 74, as you can see. That's up Albert Street, Frog's Hollow, living up to its name. One of the more famous residents, Festival Hall, no longer there. A little bit of a flyby just to show you where it is. Come on over South Bank here. We'll just whiz up the river, you know, because we can, I suppose, across the bridges. The old Forceful Tug there, I don't think that's there anymore. This is fairly old metadata. Past the old Wollongabba Coal Wharfs and the Kangaroo Point Cliffs. Got a whole video coming up on that soon. I really enjoy that place. Garden Point here with the concert there and the old QUT where T-Rox did his university days. Well, day really, but anyway. This is Frog's Hollow, and that all those high rises will come down here. This is where the creek used to be, right here. There is a tiny, I'll put a still at the end of the creek on low tide as usual, even in a synthetic video. T-Rox can't get there at low tide. And that's Frog's Hollow right there. So anyway, here's a picture of the outlet that is now the creek. You can see it at low tide, it's still there. And here's a sculpture called Frog Hollow from Chris Trotter. You've got to know Chris Trotter. If you don't, look him up. I'll put a link in the description. An amazing guy. Well, here we are, folks, in the city on a beautiful, balmy Brisbane night. And we're going to have a look at Frog's Hollow. We're just at Elizabeth Street at the moment. As you can see, Brisbane's a beautiful town to look at day or night. And we're right at the edge of Frog's Hollow here. It's actually just to the edge of us here. We're going to walk down, but the reason I'm here is to show you, look out uphill this is. And the other way, down the hill, is towards Albert Street, is where Frog's Hollow was. So we'll have a look down there. We're walking down now towards Albert Street, and you can see we're walking well and truly downhill towards the main intersection. And this part of town, this is the new Cross River Rail station being built here. Had a little security guard lady try to tell me I couldn't be there, so I had to leave apparently, because you know, it's important. She thought it was important anyway, but anyway, here we are. We know you're in an old part of town when you got tough gutters. When you look for ups and downs in these towns and you're looking for levels, that's some sort of artificial stone there. Come on, T-Rox, you can do better than that. Get down on the gutter. There we are, that's the tough gutter. Really nice gutter actually, and we know that's the original level. This is all part of the Cross River Rail stuff. There's a couple of kids there, I didn't want a video. Anyway, it's quite nice what they've done here. Look at these people, everyone out, beautiful night. A lot of people live down this end of town now because there's a lot of accommodation, so it's really cool. And we're walking down into the hollow. Now back in the 1800s, of course, this was a pretty crappy part of town because it was all yucky and there was a swamp and it flooded all the time. So it was a cheap end of town, and it's where a lot of Chinese people used to live, and they set up their businesses down here. And of course, the original colonists didn't really like that too much. They already, about the 1870s, they'd already kicked all the Aboriginal people out of town. They were looking for someone else to pick on. So there was a race riot down here, and a whole bunch of people started beating up Chinese people, and they started setting fire to Chinese businesses and ransacking Chinese businesses. When it all settled down, they arrested no one, and they charged no one. But anyway, I suppose it's the punching down thing. But it's funny, we never did that to the Italian or the Greek people. They were a bit too tough, I think. But anyway, the Chinese people are an important part of Brisbane and have always been. I hear a lot of talk about, oh, the Chinese are taking over Brisbane. There were a lot of Chinese people living here in the 1850s and 1860s. It's not new, right? It just isn't. And they're an important part of our culture. I think we'd have all died of scurvy if it wasn't for the Chinese gardeners out in the country areas. The only ones that knew how to grow anything green. here we are. This is all the trucks waiting to get into the Cross River rail site, but the reason I'm here is look at that's Frogs Hollow. You can see the drop in the road. It drops way down there. And if you look at some of the photos that I showed previously here, you can see there's 1.5 meters of water through here, 2 meters of water. And there will be again. Remember that if you're ever thinking of buying here's Queen's Wharf, the new development. Probably one of the most hideous Brisbane buildings in Brisbane. And a mate of mine lives just over the road. He said, "Hey, T-Rox," he said, "this thing's going to be ugly." I said, "Mate, just get an apartment there, because it's the only place in Brisbane you won't have to look at the hideous thing from." I just don't know what they're thinking, but anyway, it doesn't worry me. I could barely afford a cup of coffee in there, so it don't worry me at all. But hey, all those people in there are getting paid, and their little kittlies are going to school and they're buying groceries, so in the end it can't be all bad. Even though it's going to be hideous, and they've actually narrowed the river. Interesting to see what happens. Beautiful old part of Brisbane there that didn't get knocked down in the Bjelke Peterson years. Old Parliament House down there. Margaret Street just on the corner here. This is the upper edge of what used to be called Frogs Hollow. Looking down Margaret Street, you can see she's substantially downhill because George Street is on a ridge, and if you looked on the old geology map, it's on a ridge of Darren Fernvale Shale. I couldn't help this. This is the Pancake Manor, Brisbane institution, been here for 100 years. Probably has actually, I just looked that up, but certainly been open since I've been alive. This place has been open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Used to do a lot of installs in the city years ago, various IT gear, and 2 o'clock in the morning, you'd always get a feed here. They were great. After festivals, festival hall concerts, Pancake Manor was the go. And nowadays things have changed a bit. Just down the road from the Pancake Manor, there's this bar, this wine bar you can see upstairs there. Got a heap of good scotches in the old Reed and Nephews building, and that is called the Frogs Hollow Saloon. That's why it's in the video. And no, I didn't go in. I can't be trusted around that sort of stuff. And right next to it, of course, there's the good old home of 1,000,000 books. And I've been in there, and I don't know. And 1 bus. 1,000,000's a pretty big number, but it's still there. It's been there a long time. Anyway, that's it for today. Hey Geo Nerds, that's your lot for the week again. I really enjoyed this one, the old Frogs Hollow. Came out of a Freudian slip. I was talking to a guy who stopped me in the park on the Yorks Hollow one, and I kept saying Frogs Hollow instead of Yorks Hollow, and I apologised. He said, "No, there is a Frogs Hollow. It's over in the city somewhere." And I thought, oh yeah, of course there is. I've got to do a video on it now, get it out of my head. But anyway, nice guy. He had a dog called Vegemite. There you go. You don't forget that too often. Anyway, that's your lot for the week. I really enjoyed this, having a read about it, going through there, having a look at night. Doing the night run's really good. The Enoggera Creek one is underway. It's going to have to be split into 2. It's just going to get too big, and if you leave anything out, the story disappears. So we got to do it right. So we'll have one from below the Enoggera Dam and one from above the Enoggera Dam, I think. Should work out really well. So yeah, great fun. I really enjoyed it. Thanks to all the new subscribers. Thanks for sticking through to the end of the video. I know a lot of you don't, but you know, some of you do. I see it in the analytics, and I do appreciate it. So anyway, that bloke actually stopped me in the park, and he said, "Hey T-Rox, you're doing Frogs Hollow." He said, "What sort of shoes do frogs wear?" And I thought, well, I'm not sure, but they'd be open-toed for sure.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you like this stuff, and hey, you made it this far, please help us to poke the algorithm and smash that like button like it's Space 1999. And if you want to see more, subscribe and share this with, say, 1,000 of your closest friends. And let's see just how far that little algorithm can go before its CPU explodes. Cop you later.